All right. So, hey everybody. So, what I wanted to do is bring on Layland today, and we worked together for quite a while, and he was part of my one-on-one identity work, and he's been playing hockey for quite a while now. And what I really wanted to do is bring him on and just introduce you guys to different clients that I've worked with and get an understanding of what it is that this identity 2.0 work really is. So, Leyland, if you'd like to kind of introduce yourself and just kind of where your kind of hockey journey started, and then where you kind of met up with me, and we'll go from there.
Sure. As a kid, I fell in love with the game at the age of 7, watching the New York Islanders win their first Stanley Cup in 1980. And I played for a few years. Parents were European and didn't quite understand what it was to be a hockey parent. They were kind of great hockey parents and not so great. They didn't really like the idea. My mom was like, I don't want you losing your teeth and all that. But I pushed forward. And then that's when I was in Pickering, Ontario. We moved to downtown Toronto when I was 10, and I didn't know where to go. I guess it would have been GTHL or something like that. But I let it slide for a year. Then my school had a tryout for a hockey team, and a year had gone by and I hadn't played, but I dusted off the gear and tried out, and I didn't make it. And then you sort of leave it, and then you realize hockey, it requires a lot of attention and focus, and we'll get back to that over and over again. Went dormant, didn't play for a long time, got some skates in grade 12, and played a lot of shinny that winter. And then the following winter, left it dormant for a while again. And then when I turned 40, it's like, you know what? I got to play hockey again. I just know I'm going to play. And so I went to the hockey shop, and the kid comes up to me and says, what are you looking for today? New pair of gloves or whatever? I'm like, it's your lucky day. I need the full suit. So I got that. I went to my local rink, took some adult hockey classes. A lot of it came back to me pretty good. I had pretty good natural athleticism. Joined the league, play. And then probably around late 2018, so this is a few years playing again, I started really getting into YouTube, and I found Train 2.0, Jason Yee's program, and I started following that and really working on stuff and saying, I want to take this to another level. Then I came across you, and I was very intrigued, probably as a Gretzky era kid. That was the idea of hockey IQ that really I thought was interesting. And I'd taken a lot of psychology and philosophy type courses in university. So I thought, well, I got to at least check this out. And it worked great. Like, first time on the ice after a session, it at least allowed me the ability to focus on what am I going to do out here? Doug Gilmour says hockey is a game of errors. True, but we're always trying to minimize those. We need to know what we're doing. And so since I worked with you, Corson, until now, I've always kept that with me of like organizing my practice, thinking about my game, my identity on the ice, what it is I want to do, the player I want to become. And then I noticed amongst my peers, which are adult hockey players of a variety of levels, I got good enough that I got to play in the A division a little bit in the Downtown Men's Hockey League. Those guys had played junior and stuff. I got cut. They got some kid out of the OHL to play. That's fine. I'm happy to be cut there. And but from that level all the way down to like ankle burning beginners. But the constant is, no matter what level you're at, you have to constantly be thinking about what it is you're going to do out there. I mean, you're skating, you've got, what's the average pounds of equipment, like 30 more pounds on you in equipment? I don't know. I always say, it's like, people say it's so heavy in this stuff. I say, well, yeah, well, like go out and skate with your hockey bag on. Like that's how much you're carrying. So you got all this stuff on you, whether you wear like visor or cage or whatever gear. It's just like, what's going on here? Like, it's fun. It's really random. So how do we stop that random walk that is part of the fun of the game, but also makes it enormously frustrating? Like
Right.
you get the puck on your stick, you go to the net, you fan on a shot, right? I mean, boy, wouldn't that have been better if you just rifled it top cheese? Wouldn't that be better? Well, it would. But the only way you're going to do that is by isolating that is something you want to work on. What spot in the ice do you need to be on to make that happen? Like what I've learned is that these are things that real hockey players think about all the time. And it just amazes me how many people play the game. And if you say hockey smarts to them, they'll go, Wayne Gretzky, yeah, peripheral vision out to here. I don't know. He's a magician. He's a wizard. That's what it really means. And it doesn't. Interestingly enough, Wayne Gretzky has a master class on that master class program. And I've watched the preview to that. He just talks about how his drive to get better and his fear was that he was going to get cut. That's like, really? You're Wayne Gretzky. He always thought, the Oilers were going to cut him. And that's why he got so good. I don't know what the rest is, but all I would say is that hockey smarts and taking your stuff and organizing it, we need to demystify this and say that this is what we do with things that we're interested in. Like I also play the guitar. So when I want to learn a piece of music, I get the sheet music and I start on this bar and then so that I can learn the song. Hockey's no different. You can learn the steps, the spots in the ice, where you need to be. It's really not that mythic, but think of the advantage that you have, say when you're making an offensive zone entry and you're positioned in a certain way, you learn how to position yourself in a way where there's 3 things I can do immediately, and I know what they are, and all I'm doing now is I'm watching this defenseman to see where he commits, and then I'm going to do the best move. Like that's what I'm going to do. People see this like in highlight reels. They're like, wow, like, he did the pull between the legs, or maybe not that fancy. Maybe you just know how to and when to cut to the middle. People watch this and they're like, that guy, he's so good. He's so good. Like, how does he do it? How does he do it? I would just say, like, it is very obvious how you do it. But going back to when I met you, Corson, let's say like late spring or summer 2019 was around then. Like, it's totally at your fingertips to do that. You don't need a rink. You can sit and draw out. You can get creative with it. You can say, well, I want to be this kind of player, or I like this move. And it's how to organize your practice and your game. And you will see this kind of development occur. But if all you do is play hockey, it's kind of going to be this. And little bits of learning will occur. But let's say to make a good offensive zone entry, you might key on to the idea that by faking to the middle and then pulling around seems to kind of work. You can actually wow, when I do that, I get around defensemen. But I'll tell you that if you figure that out on the ice and don't do any work on it off of the ice, like mental work, then you're going to have to try that move 30 times, let's say, to sort of put it in your repertoire. And 30 times might take you 2.5 years of playing hockey. Let's just say, I don't know how many times a week you play, but if you do the math, it's going to take you forever to come to these epiphanies, versus working with someone like you who's like, hey, I've done all this. I can't tell you everything to do in hockey. I don't have the entire playbook, but I can give you a really great playbook that will put you far above the people you play with. So yeah, hockey smarts is really common sense.
Yeah. No, I totally get that. No, it was
yeah.
great. And I think that one thing, and I totally got everything you said there. And I think one place that maybe to kind of go back to is, like, before we worked together, I think one thing that maybe I noticed in our first few conversations was that there was a little bit of this idea of, like, there was very much, you weren't sure exactly like how you could come up with new new plays and what to kind of work on and what direction to go with a lot of these kind of decisions. And I think one of the things we kind of initially established and simplified down was, well, how do you want to play? Like, what are the moves that you want to be able to make? And I think that was what I noticed right away, was that once we even just introduced that kind of foundational identity piece, it really brought out a kind of a clarity. And what was that kind of your experience as well?
Yeah, totally. Before, let's say, 2019 summer, I would have enormous frustration is like getting a pass in the neutral zone, skating towards the blue line. But in my mind, I'm not freezing, and I'm not a timid person. Like, I'd go for it, but I'd be like, honestly, I don't know how to get past that line. Right. There's going to be a defenseman there. Do I skate here or here? And a lot of people just play hockey like that for a long period of time, or sort of forever. And they just have fun with it and figure that they're not very good. But I think a lot of people get a lot better by just isolating that particular thing, right? If, as myself, who plays forward, that's something that you want to do. I ran a few teams, like in co-ed and stuff, and that was one of my things to say to the group is like, look, let's be honest. Who among us can really carry the puck through the blue line consistently? That's the person we need to pass to, right? I mean, if we want to win games, if we want to treat this more as practice, then I'm open to it being more democratic. Let everyone have a try. But yeah, there's there's a whole language you can put around this to make it a lot easier. It's like, I don't know why I would ask back to you, why do you suppose it is that, particularly here in Canada, where so many people grow up playing in some way, as I did as well, all I remember from my hockey coach was 2 hands on the stick on the ice at Dombier Arena in Pickering. But why do you think it is that so many people play hockey without a good underlying concept when they go on the ice of what they should do?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And I think one of the biggest issues that we run into as kind of just hockey developers in general, so coaches, skills coaches, mental coaches, is that a lot of the time we have this idea that players are kind of just supposed to figure it out. Their job is to try to piece it all together more or less on their own. I know a lot of coaches, especially when I was younger, specifically where in minor hockey, I really found myself just having the coaches say, well, you need to come into tryouts and be at a certain level. And your expectation was to be at home and to hope you had parents who knew what they were doing and bring you to a skills coach, bring you to a psychologist if you felt like your confidence wasn't there, bring you to someone who's going to help you with strength and conditioning. There's all these elements that you're not really being helped by a coach, and a coach is not expected to do that in Canada. Now, the US system, from what I kind of have learned, is that there's a lot more focus on trying to bring a more holistic approach so that they can put out the best overall players. And one of my kind of, I think, pet peeves with the Canadian system, at least when I went through it, was that, yeah, it seems that a lot of these things are kind of like islands that exist out, and it's your job to really kind of scavenge the internet and find it. Whereas within certain systems, and I know other countries are doing this right now, they're really putting in the work to bring this together so that more and more players get exposure to all of the potential elements that come together. And again, that's what I'm trying to do with my development system, is really focus on getting the mental part figured out, figuring out what it is that you need to work on, and then giving players clarity. And that's what I tried to do for you, is give you clarity on who can you go talk to learn how to get better at skills. What is it to actually work on your psychology, work on confidence? What does that mean? And I think a lot of people don't even have a foundation to start with there, and it leaves a lot of players behind.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a parent, but I feel in some instances when I'm at rinks that we've got different worlds in Hockey Canada. One is my boy's going to play in the big leagues, and whatever he needs, he gets.
Right.
And if it's your thing or someone else's, hockey intelligent, I think now like VR glasses in the basement with a stick, like whatever it is.
Right.
Some kids get that. And then there's others that are just there for fun, which is cool. But I think like we can all learn something playing sports.
Right.
Is the win or the lose and the try. And hockey's a great game. And I mean, I guess I'm saying that you can enjoy it just as a random thing, get a stick and some skates. And but then I think of Canadians, I think how Canada thinks that it's our game. And I mean, a lot of us play it. If you look at the history of hockey, obviously it started where there were bodies of water that froze over and people had skates.
Right.
Which is not necessarily Canada, right? Is the Scandinavian countries, Russia, even England. But it's evolution. So there's like that fun part or that super serious part. But we can all get something from sports. Like I was just talking to a guy in business today, and he wants to recruit younger people and like give them jobs. And I was like, I never hear this anymore. Things have changed so much. I said, well, I should put you in touch with some guys graduating commerce in my fraternity because, you know, they're personable. They play sports and they tend to be good at these things of, you know, sales and going out there and hunting and winning and losing. And
Right.
I think we need to get back to as a society an ability to do the winning and the losing and the trying.
Right.
You know, I think it's a lot easier to strike out knowing that at least you swung the bat really well versus these are baseballs and somehow I just can't hit them.
Right.
You know, so back to my example in rinks though, is the kids that are getting like every bit of elite training possible. And the goal is to make them professional hockey players and the fun ones. But there's a commonality to playing sports and the great psychology and let's call it like mental fidelity that can be finessed through playing sports.
Right.
We always say that it's true of exercise, like, oh, I work out to de-stress. Well, that's good. You're not drinking and doing drugs to chill out. It's like, good choice. Take the gym over the bar. We all get that. But what about the mental fidelity of playing and playing in a team? Right. And learning how to accept your strengths and weaknesses and then harnessing your strengths. These are all great lessons for life too, right?
Right. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it is interesting. And that's funny enough why especially a lot of the younger clients that I work with, I end up kind of spending some time touching on things off the rink as well that connect to a lot of this stuff, because what I really try to do with a lot of the work we do is it's more of a framework for performance, and then we can go into specifics. So we can talk about setting up the framework for how you want to enter the zone, and we design out how you're going to visualize it, how you're going to become confident and actually break down the emotional barriers. But then you want to be understanding that then you apply the specifics. So you find the very detailed points and add those in layers. And you can take that and apply it to any other area of life. You can look at things in a business setting and really have this same structure of, okay, why aren't you confident in approaching going, even if it's just looking at jobs? Why are you scared to apply to certain jobs? And then you break that down and we go through a process to learn how to do that. And there's lots of different approaches to doing that. Then you're going to find out, okay, well, now I want to figure out what is the techniques I'm going to actually use to go and apply, figure out those tools. And then you add in the specific, I keep screwing up that word, keep adding in those little details each time, so that, again, you just find the expert that knows all those details, that knows all that stuff. And that's, again, to transition a little bit here into, as we continue to work, and then as now you've went into the pandemic kind of shift, you've went in and started kind of looking at different approaches and going into other areas and looking at, okay, well, how can I use this person to add to my toolbox? How can I add here? And do you care to share a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah. Well, November was the last time I actually played a game,
Hmm.
and rinks were open, so I could work on skating. And I've got a little bits of space around my house here where I can work on stick handling, but the skating became a really big focus,
Hmm.
to get mechanically a lot stronger.
Hmm.
And it was I made a lot of figure skating friends out on the ice. Yeah, like it was, how can I use my time?
Right.
Now that the ice is gone, it's Mars blades and stick, and that's been good too. I just continued though, like I didn't need to be playing hockey. In fact, I've often looked at this time as a gift of not having to go and play a game,
Right.
because from the work we started and then the mechanical stuff I'm doing now, is I've just really like listed out all the things that I can move, like, or that I can not move, but that I can use. So can I pull in the puck and shoot? Can I change the angle? Let's work on that for a while. I worked with a figure skating coach to get really good at doing 3 turns.
Hmm.
So spinoramas and just transitioning backwards to forwards has become a lot easier for me,
Hmm.
et cetera, et cetera. So I'm just like installing all of these things based on an overall architecture and understanding of the game. But if I didn't have the map that you provided, then I'd kind of be, you know what you do? You'd probably, because you like it so much, you'd probably pick up your stick, handle the ball for 5 minutes and get bored, right? You'd probably go skating like once and do like I saw a lot of hockey guys doing, just trying to rip around the rink as fast as they can in a circle,
Right.
versus why don't you do the edge work? Why don't you just say, like, I got a few months here. I'm going to take my outside edge and I'm just going to kill it. I'm
Right.
going to be outside edge. So like punch turns, I really got into those this winter.
Right.
Didn't have those before. And it wouldn't be, if there was no pandemic, then I'd just be playing hockey games. I'd still, given what we've done, I'd still find ways to work on that. But this allowed me just to say, I don't have to bother being on a team at all, because I can't be. I can do all practice.
Right.
I have yet to test the hypothesis out, but I'm sure when I get back to playing, it's going to be like night and day.
Yeah. No.
All from being organized, and so many people are not organized about hockey. And when you run a team, as I have in the past, if you tell someone, but you don't want to make it like condescending, but there's certain habits that like adult hockey players have that are really detrimental.
Hmm.
I wouldn't say anything bad, like, keep your head up or anything like that. But, let's say keep the top hand out when you're shooting or whatever. You see them in that, they're like, I know that,
Right.
they're like, don't, but they don't.
Right.
You hit like this sort of nerve. And I think it's wonderful to pare things back to like their most simple and basic ways. Like, really good stick handlers still do a line drill to see that they can get that puck flat, no spin, no hop or jump in the puck, and that they do that really well. And I don't know, if you can do that with a puck, the people who can't are going to have trouble competing with you.
Right. Yeah, I totally get that. Yeah, and I guess were there any specific tools that stood out to you when we worked together that you've really taken? I know you mentioned a few there, but were there any that stood out now that you kind of have taken and applied to different things you're doing?
Well, there's like ways we work together. I found the video analysis extremely helpful.
Mhm.
In fact, like I think for your stuff, it's kind of essential to have like at least a few games recorded so that we can all agree on what we're looking at.
Right.
Those are very helpful, because I still look back at those like immediately after, like we would have done those, like, because I did play in the summer a little bit,
Mhm.
played in the ASHL here in Scarborough. Well, that was a good example. Like, so there was a gap there between pandemic lockdown 1 March, and then Scarborough opened up in August. So we played like an 8-game mini season there. A lot of those guys came out of AHL, and it's this like home for the summer, really good hockey players. And I held my own pretty good. Like I could see what they were doing. I could compete. They're a lot younger. You know, I scored a few goals, and I would credit that to a lot of what we did, which was to really start seeing and understanding the ice, and the chess moves that are going on,
Right.
to really break it down. Like I was saying to somebody how it would be really effective to have these like holographic flashcards, which show you like a hand on a stick in this position, what it can change to, and then it can be this pullback or that. And you know, you start to really develop an like external and an internal eye through those exercises,
Right.
where you see the lanes on the ice. You know, it's not just this big blur.
Right.
Yeah, and so I would say I definitely noticed that between the spring when you looked at a lot of my games, and that was like towards the end of my season, and then we were all off for a while, and then I went back in August. I mean, albeit I always kept my mechanical work up.
Mhm.
I was always out on the Mars blades every morning and working on stuff, but with hard tactics in mind and how they would play out on the ice, but also seeing it now from the video analysis in other people and what they're doing.
Right.
And that I know that, like I know when guys are trying to do the double punch turn on me, like I just see it.
Right.
And I catch it sometimes.
Right.
So that's not only maybe from learning to do it yourself, but you can see, oh, he's trying to do this little hop,
Right.
versus that would totally burn me before. So yeah, stuff like that. I don't know what umbrella would you put that under. To me, it's like visualization.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I think it's a big combination of a lot of things. And obviously, I don't want to act as if it's just a mental thing. Like you said, it definitely is it's a combination of putting in the work in many different areas. But where I would put that is it's your ability to understand certain cues and certain neural links that I know we worked on specifically and like really dug into those. So I think that a lot of it is knowing that if somebody does this tiny little movement and you learn to be very conscious when you play, which is improved by working on focus, by working on visualization and remembering those things and practicing defensive maneuvers as well, you start to get a read on, well, I know that if he moves his foot this way, then I automatically will cut this way and give myself a higher percentage of stopping it because I know that cue. So it's really understanding the cues, and then having built-in reactions allows you to be able to then layer on new reactions and new additional steps and complexity into those movements that previously it might have been difficult to just process, just where to put your stick, for example.
Yeah.
So it's already wired in your mind. And now it's like, okay, cool. Now I just worry about, I'm going to pop my shoulder into this area so he can't step here. And now I can add in a whole bunch of different levels that before were really tough to remember.
Yeah. Yeah. And that also, they just become intuitive and logical. Like I would say that people could be afraid of this kind of curriculum on a couple of levels. One is any delving into their psychology is always a bit of a nefarious sort of area. But the other is for it to seem like too erudite, that like, you know, if cut back here, then move stick here, or what have you. But no, it's actually, that is what's going on out there. And if you just can commit yourself to spending a bit of time writing it down, and then creating those diagrams we worked in on different plans of attack and so on, then it's going to be a lot simpler to you.
Right.
And then as a result, then you can play a lot smarter. And who wouldn't want to play smarter? And the other thing I would add is that for parents, you know, and partially for anybody, is the safety factor.
Right.
If you want to play safer hockey, then you need to increase your awareness. And this is a great way to obviously do all of that.
Awesome. Well, that sounds great. Well, thanks a lot, Layland, for coming on and really
Yeah.
helping kind of explain your journey and your process through, and hopefully your sharing kind of opens up the door for people to see what kind of is possible with this kind of work, because again, it's what I love doing, and it's what I apply to my game as well. So I know it's helpful to get to hear, especially from my end, get to hear the difference it's made, and I'm assuming the fun you get to have when you make the plays that you've wanted to make.
Yeah, it's anything like sports or music or whatever, people obviously look at it and go, oh, I could never do that.
Right.
And if you're not going to put any work in, you're right. You know, you never will. But there are maps and are ways to learn these things. And the longer I've done anything, the more I realize talent is a very small component and hard work is a much bigger component. And I think people get hung up on, do I have any talent, as the overriding question, which is, I say, how hard are you going to work? Like, I don't necessarily feel like practicing every day, but I do, because I know I'll play better hockey, and that long term, that makes me feel better. Now, I do really enjoy practicing, but there's some days I have to drag myself a little bit, but I know that there's this thing that I'm building. You know, it's like a house and it's got different add-ons, and, you know, you can have a lot more fun with the game when you're like, you know, this season I'm going to like roll out this move. I'm going to be the pull between the legs guy. Like, that's what I want to do. And it's fun. Why not? Better being the guy that's playing the same hockey that he was playing 8 or 9 years ago.
That's so awesome. Awesome, Layla. Well, thanks a lot for coming on. I want to be respectful
Thank
of your
you.
time. So
Yep.
awesome.
That's
Well,
great.
Thanks for jumping on. And again, I hope to continue to see your success, and I will talk to you very soon.
We will let you know.
Awesome. Thanks, Layland.
Thanks, Corson.